Ahoy hoy fellow bookworms, my name is Caroline and I like to read books, so let's talk about them. I recently did a video all about my favorite books that I read in 2016, so if you're interested in watching that and hearing me rave about some absolutely phenomenal books, then be sure to click the link. This video is going to be all about my least favorite books that I read in 2016, but I'm going to say at the start that not all of these were necessarily bad books. Some of them were definitely bad, but most of them were just disappointing. It was a case of expectations versus reality, where I went into certain books thinking I would love them, hoping they would be amazing because I'd heard such great things, and then they just didn't really live up to the hype. So if I talk about a book that is one of your favorites or that you really enjoyed, then please don't be offended. This is just my personal opinion, and if you think differently, then that's perfectly okay. So without further ado, let's just jump straight in. I'm always reluctant to say that I hated a book because it just feels like such a harsh thing to say, but this was the first book that I read in 2016, and I actually think that I hated it, and it's 10,000 Skies Above You by Claudia Gray. This is the second book in the Firebird trilogy. I read the first book and I think I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was clever and interesting, and then I picked up this book and it was like it had taken everything that I disliked about book 1 and made a slightly larger book about it. It was just a clusterfuck of young adult tropes. We have a bit of a love triangle, we have separated main characters, and we have a chosen one, and all of those tropes kind of combined to just make this a really frustrating and unpleasant reading experience for me. I know that the third book in this series recently came out, and although I've been hearing kind of good things about it, I don't really care. This book kind of ruined the series for me, so now I'm kind of just like, eh. Next up we have Frontlines by Michael Grant, which is the only book this year that I DNF'd. I had never DNF'd anything, but this was the book that made me realize it's okay to give up on something that you're not enjoying. I made it to about halfway before I realized that I didn't care about the characters, I didn't really care about the story, and I just wasn't enjoying it, so I've officially DNF'd this book. This story takes place in an alternate World War II where female soldiers have been drafted alongside male soldiers, and I was really hoping it would be like a badass feminist story where we have these awesome female soldiers proving what women can do, and instead I got really two-dimensional female characters. The point where I officially gave up on this book was where one of the female characters said something along the lines of, "How will I be able to shoot an enemy soldier if he's cute?" And I was just like, really? Like, really? The next book on my list of least favorites for the year is The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. This is one of those books that wasn't actually bad, it just wasn't for me. I went into this expecting it to be amazing, and the writing was okay, but I didn't care that much about the story. I wasn't particularly attached to any of the characters, so it was just kind of a book that fell a bit flat for me, I guess. Next up we have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, Jack Thorne, and John Tiffany. When I first read this, I actually really enjoyed it. I think I gave it like 3.5 out of 5 stars because I was so swept up in the magic. I liked that they did something kind of different with the story, but the more I thought about it after finishing, the more I realized how not good it was. There were just too many plot holes within this play and things that were completely implausible in the Harry Potter world that I know and love. This did not fit with the rest of the Harry Potter books, and that's what really bothers me about it. I do think it was clever and I do think it would be amazing on stage, but overall it kind of just felt like a fan fiction to me, and for that reason I've actually lowered my rating of this probably down to like a 1.5 or 2 stars. You guys can probably guess what the last book I'm going to mention is because I rant about this a lot on my channel, but it's pretty easily one of my least favorite books like ever, and it's Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I don't think this was a particularly good book, but what really got me was how disappointing it was because I went into this thinking it was going to be awesome, and it just wasn't. Obviously I've mentioned this a few times, but my main problem with this book was the way it was marketed. It was sold as Game of Thrones for the young adult audience, but I just found it to be too similar to Game of Thrones. There were a lot of plot points and characters that were literally copies, or at least I kind of thought they were, but also it didn't have the same darkness that Game of Thrones have, which makes it such a powerful thing to read. It was just kind of like too toned down, and I didn't really like it. I also found the world building and the characters to be kind of lacking, and overall just really did not enjoy this book. Those are my least favorites of 2016, and I'm actually kind of weirdly happy because I read 103 books this year, and when I sat down to think of my least favorites of the entire year, I could only think of this handful that I mentioned, which means I had a really good reading year. Anyway, I upload videos Wednesdays, Saturdays, and sometimes Mondays as well, so be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned on those days for more bookish goodness. Toodaloo!